Can you tell us your name, what you do, and what your business is?
Yeah, so my name is Cassiel Smith. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and I'm a licensed addiction specialist. And my business is called Wealthyology Counseling Center.
Wealthyology. What does wealthyology mean?
So wealthyology is basically the belief that you could be well. And so when I practice with individuals and I'm working with my clients, my hope is that they know that they have the power within them to be well. And so wealthyology is a way of life, a way of being, so that one can be well.
Excellent. So can you talk to us a little bit about why you became a mental health counselor?
Yeah, so it's a long story, but I'm going to try to wrap it up in a small little segment. The reason why I wanted to become a counselor is, for one, I always wanted to do something that I naturally was able to do. I didn't feel like I was working. Helping people, counseling others, helping them navigate through some of their challenges just came easy for me, and it created a passion within me. That's one aspect. The other aspect is I've seen in my family. A lot of family members dealt with mental health issues, and just being able to help them navigate through their mental health challenges just was, I felt impactful. I felt like I was changing the world. I felt like I was helping out. So that was one area. Then my personal journey, dealing with mental health, depression and anxiety, and just navigating through the natural coping skills, through spiritual coping skills, through medication, and just finding my own plan, what works for me, and just getting to this place of wellness. And I just want to help others achieve the same success.
Wow. So you really want others to achieve wealthyology as a way of their own lives.
Yes. Yep. Just the being that the mindset that they can be well, whatever the circumstances, whatever they're going through. Nothing is too small, nothing is too big that they can't overcome.
So you touched a little bit about things that you saw within your own family. Can you talk about those experiences and what that, how does that apply for other families, specifically Black families?
Yeah, so, I always saw growing up certain things about my family that I had questions, but there wasn't a space to ask questions. And so you just kind of navigated through life. And it wasn't until I got older and having to deal with some of my own challenges and seeing where the root of those challenges came from was a time when I started asking more questions. By that time I was a little bit older, so I was more privy to the conversation. But in our community, a lot of times we don't want to share about certain challenges that we go through. And so just having to navigate around, my family and what I was seeing, and then getting to that place of being of age where I was brought into the conversation where I can help out. Also, I just wanted to generally see my family better. And so bringing that energy and that concern, it was met well, as opposed to maybe when I was younger, I might have not been able to ask the questions that I needed to. But I think just where we are today, people are more open to the conversation. I think that also helped out. But yeah, that was some of the things that helped me kind of navigate around my personal family. And I think other families can learn from that. I think other families can just try their own process and see what works, because you don't know until you try. And so if you try to bridge the gap between your family, whether there's age differences or challenges within their family from a mental health standpoint, I think just trying and seeing what works, and then asking questions. I think that can be helpful.
So you mentioned some of the things that are unique to our community. Can you take a deeper dive into that? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of challenges that we have endured throughout the generations. Slavery, just the household, male role models or father figures not being present in the household in a lot of households. Single parent mothers, even single parent fathers as well, grandparents raising the kids, maybe both parents out of the house. Seemed like we have dealt with a lot of addiction issues as well. And of course, mental health issues that, again, we don't get help for. And we are left to navigate through that space. And sometimes just navigating through that space, we don't choose the best coping skills. I'm also an addiction counselor as well. So, working with individuals in the household and the family who have use addiction, use substances as a coping mechanism, because they would rather choose to not, choose to do that versus to go to the doctor or speak with the therapist. And so I just think that, historically, we just been dealt with some unfortunate cards that have shaped this trauma that we've gone through in life. And I think now we're just starting to get a grasp on that, the reality of what our traumatic experiences have brought us to or led to our issues in our family. And I'm very thankful that, we're in this time period right now, because there's just more awareness related to mental health. My concern is that we don't get too much caught up into it being like a buzzword. I hope that, we are treating it as it should, and not just treating it as a buzzword or a trend, but really taking initiative to try to make sure we cross the T's and dot the I's, cross the T's. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So
there are some individuals that might say, well, slavery is over. Why do Black people still act like, this is such an issue? Can you speak specifically to how in a post-slavery society, the trauma still shows up in Black families specifically, and the impact that it's had?
Yeah, so just because slavery is over doesn't mean that there's not slavery-related systematic issues or things related to our law or, the criminal justice system, or, getting a loan or education. There's a lot of areas in life that slavery still plays a role in. And I think because of that, we're still not able to elevate ourselves to the point where our counterparts are able to elevate themselves. And as a result, we internalize that. We might, again, go to negative coping skills, which then maybe triggers maybe an underlying mental health concern, or just a mental health concern gets created out of just constantly, not being able to elevate oneself to their perceived goals or ideal self or whatever it may be. And so it's also how people perceive us as well, self-image, identity, again, being able to be authentic, be yourself. I think that plays a role in when there's a challenge with one being able to be their authentic selves, you create different negatives, irrational thinking, negative thoughts, negative perceptions of selves. And so that plays on one's confidence. Mm-hmm. And if we're trying to establish, the great American dream, nice house, maybe a dog, white picket fence, those things like that, when one is not confident, it's hard to achieve those things sometimes. Mm-hmm. So. And
also when one is experiencing microaggressions and traumas.
Exactly, mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, we don't know what goes on from a microaggression per se, but one feels it mm-hmm. when the opportunities are not given, when other opportunities for others are given. Mm-hmm. And so then you start to reflect on, well, what's wrong with me? Mm-hmm. And then, for us as Black individuals, suicide rate has been increasing, through the years. What once used to be a Caucasian issue, as perceived to be a Caucasian issue, now is also an African American issue with suicide. Mm-hmm. And so, one would ask, well, why does one desire to end their life because of a certain situation? One doesn't know, but we do know that certain things are increasing in the world, and we're not really taking an objective look at where the root issues are. And I think people are kind of grazing over some of the main issues, and basically what we're talking about is just systematic slavery and mm-hmm. how systematic influences have negatively affected our population, mm-hmm. our people.
So would you say that this is the lens and the expertise that Wealthiology brings to especially people of color looking for mental health services?
I definitely think it's one of them. Navigating depression, anxiety, again, coming from a place of experience, that is where my wheelhouse is in, and that's where I feel most comfortable with being able to help people navigate through some of their challenges. But as a result of that, there's other areas when you talk about trauma, when you talk about, again, I'm a black male, obviously, right? And so when people are when people are seeking counseling, they want somebody that looks like them, who has some understanding of previous things that they might have gone through, or just are able to understand and have empathy related to what they're going through, and it comes from somebody that looks like you. And so I definitely think wealth theology can speak to that, you know, being able to help individuals navigate through some racial trauma, navigate through personal identity development, you know, growth, being able to navigate through how to get over the hump of just self-sabotaging, imposter syndrome, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. So what I hear you saying is that because you are a black male and you come with this worldview as you approach your practice, others that might be seeking help or support would be able to connect with you more authentically because of the worldview that you bring.
I agree.
Can you talk to us a little bit about why having representation in the counseling field is important?
It's important just from the standpoint of, so for example, I feel comfortable speaking with you. You look like me. You probably had similar life experiences. You know, there's just a warm connection, right? When somebody's meeting with an individual who they're sharing their whole life to, they want somebody who can relate, somebody who had that empathy, that unconditional positive regard for them, somebody who feels like they're not going to be judged, somebody who they might not feel triggered by. Because let's face it, a lot of individuals do feel triggered by, you know, a Caucasian individual, just based on certain experiences that they personally have, not to mention what they have seen, you know, through secondary trauma, you know, things that they see. That happens. One can be triggered by what they see just as if they got triggered personally from it. So when you're talking about meeting with a counselor that looks like you, the guard is let down. I can then come into the safe place and be able to expose some of these dark secrets or these things that I've swept under the rug all these years. And hopefully out of that, you know, they are on their track towards well-being.
Mm-hmm. What would hold somebody back from pursuing counseling? You know, we now are seeing not a lot, but more black counselors.
Yes.
And we all understand the nuances and why representation is so important, and having someone that can understand to an extent a little bit more of your journey and your experiences.
Yep.
But with all of that, there's still reasons why people might be afraid to pursue counseling. Can you talk about that specifically for the black community?
Yes, so there's a lot of different reasons. Of course, you know, we don't know all of them, but some of the reasons that will keep black individual from counseling would be, of course, fear. We talked about that. It could be fear from somebody else's experience that they had, and they will base that person's experience and say, well, the same thing will happen to me. You know, all counselors are not created equal. I always tell individuals, hey, shop around, read people's bios, you know, see what's a good fit for you. You know, I even tell them, for me, like, I may not be a good fit for you once we start meeting. And if that happens, I'm perfectly, you know, okay with you finding somebody else that fits you, what you're looking for. And so that's one of those things, is just hearing other people's past situations and stories. Another reason is that they do not still believe that somebody can help them, that what is going to be different from you helping me than somebody else, or what can you do for me, or what can you say to me that's going to change my life. And so there's still that suspicious way about somebody, that they feel like it's just a guard. You know, there's a guard that in a wall that is still up there, until you get to a conversation with them. That's why consultation is so important. It's free service, 15 minutes, sometimes even 30 minutes. Have a conversation with that counselor to see if that person's a good fit for you, and the pressure of having to pay for that session is not there. And so you can see if you can gel with that person. Financial reasons. Let's face it, sometimes counseling, it could be expensive. or it cannot be expensive. There's sliding scales fees for some individuals that meet that requirement, and every counselor is different in the way they go about things. Some people even do counseling for free for a certain amount of sessions. There's also other organizations, hopefully within one's community, that will provide a certain amount of free services for, I know, Black men specifically to get counseling services. So, but financially, that could be one of those things. Another area could be just time and time management. Depending on that person's experience and what they have going on, there could be several things that that person's trying to do. However, throwing counseling into it is just not in the mix. You know, they can have deadlines, they can have financial obligations. There's a lot of things that can play into why somebody doesn't seek counseling. And I think that, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons, but at the heart of it, I just think we are not as trusting yet. You know, historically, we have not had good experiences with, you know, medical providers or things operating in the name of science or in the name of medical. And so there's a distrust sometimes related to seeking help. And then also there is that notion that, you know, what stays in my house stays in my house. What goes on in my house stays in my house. And so having another third-party member brought into the secrets, you know, of your home sometimes can be challenging for some people. Mm-hmm. And I think we're growing out of that because individuals are realizing that they can't hold this in any longer, and they're starting to see that it's negatively impacting their lives. And they also can visually see how it has negatively impacted the family's life. And so I think there's a tide change with the family as it relates to how they perceive their well-being to be and things that they're willing to do and versus things that their family members or parents were not willing to do. And they're starting to turn the corner on that. And so I think we're in a good time period as it relates to, again, the mental health space. And I think people are just they're tired of being sick and tired, basically. So I think we're at a different turning point right now.
Mm-hmm. You know, that reminds me a little bit about what you referenced earlier with regards to seeing a lot of mental health challenges in your family growing up, not really understanding it, but then as you became an adult and having some experiences yourself, then becoming curious and really wanting to pursue that as a pathway. So can you share with anybody that might be suspicious about whether or not this is something that they would want to pursue? Why do I need counseling? My family has been like this. You know, I'm having issues, but, you know, I'm going to get through it the same way my family got through it. Why would you get counseling? Does counseling work? What would you say to someone like that?
I would say personally, from my experience, counseling does work. It's a two-pronged approach. You know, some people may just need talk therapy. Some people may need talk therapy and medication. Whatever your treatment plan is or whatever the need that you have, it is beneficial. Counseling, you know, is one of those things that, for one, you can look to see when somebody's doing something, the results could be evident immediately, or you can see them over time span. And the thing is, with our families, a lot of things we have made exceptions for, have given a pass, because it's like, you know, we make up a story, say, well, that's so-and-so, or that's, you know, how they always are. But we don't take the time out to look at why that person's like that. And maybe they are unhappy. And so what looks like they're happy on the outside may not be what's going on inwardly. And so we see that a lot today, people that we have seen, unfortunately, in their lives, we all have said, man, they looked like everything was going so well. And we are sitting here wondering what happened. And part of that could be if we had more of an acceptance related to getting help and taking on initiative, that maybe some of these individuals would not feel like they need to end their life. Maybe they feel like they could get help, that they won't be seen crazy, that this is acceptable, that people will rally around them and help them. And so, you know, I think the more we navigate through understanding, mental health, understanding medication, and what it is and what it's not, the better I feel people will feel able to get help. I'm a living example. I'm one of those individuals that have gone the journey of just navigating through a lot of different experiences to try to get my mental health under control. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago that I said, hey, I need to get medication for my anxiety and depression and panic attacks. And then once that happened, and once I was able to feel better and didn't have to go through the symptoms, because for me, I knew what to do. I was applying them, but there was this underlying issue where I couldn't put my finger on it. And it was something that was happening from the internal perspective as opposed to what was external. And so it wasn't until I was able to deal with what was going on internally, then I was able to navigate around what I can deal with cognitively. And so for me, it was one of the best decisions of my life. And it has given me the control that I've always desired. But it took me taking a leap. It took me overcoming my fears of what I perceived to be not the route that I wanted to take, and that was through medication or even therapy. And so I would say to anybody who is seeking therapy to not give in to your fears, try something out, because you're trying other things out that are not positive. Why not try something that is more positive for you to see if that works? And at the end of the day, try it. Just try something different. And I guarantee you, you'll see different results.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of the saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
100%. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
So, So what is the wealth theology experience that people can expect when they plug into wealth theology? How is it different from any other counseling experience that they may have?
I bring passion. I bring commitment to the person that I'm working with. I bring authenticity. And I really value the person and wanting to make sure that that individual is able to go from point A to point B to point C, understanding tools that is going to be needed to help them, but also empower them on the same sense on what they're doing well. I'm not here to shoot anybody's plans down or shoot their character down. I'm here to elevate them, and I'm here to make them feel like they can achieve this thing. Again, going back to wealth theology, the belief that you can be well. And I really try to implant that or bring that into the space when I'm speaking with somebody, so that they know at every session that they can do this, that they have the tools within them to get over what they're going through, and to be successful. And to really help them create an image out of from where they are to where they want to be. And so I don't know if that's unique just to me, but I know based on my experience, based on me just dealing with my own personal challenges and my journey through my mental health, that I tend to just bring in a different compassion that I notice for me. And I get results. I think that's one of the main things. People, I have clients that I've worked with for over a year, not because they're not over their challenges, just that they see this as something that they can use as maintenance, to continue to get over the humps, to continue to navigate through their goals. But I built trust with them. And so I think that says something about wealth theology, about myself.
Beautiful. So where can people find you? How can people find wealth theology?
So I've got my website, www.wealththeology.com. Also, I'm on Psychology Today, which is a directory for counselors, where you can use the filters to put in whatever challenge that you want to put in there. You want to put in location, if you're looking for a black male counselor, if you're looking for a woman counselor. It's very convenient for the user to really navigate their search. Word of mouth, if you happen to know somebody that has received services from me, ask them about their experience. Or you can call me at 704-951-7494.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.